The news about Jungkook and Taehyung rocked the timeline again after a new fact came to the surface and sparked an unexpected chain reaction. In the midst of the frenzy of netizen opinions that have often split the army into two camps, one thing is actually the main highlight. Jungkook's quick steps that he surprisingly immediately did to Taehyung. Not a long clarification, not a rigid official statement, but a simple act that speaks louder than 1,000 words. The new fact stems from pieces of old stories that are re-raised to the public space. A behind-the-scenes moment, which once almost went unnoticed, is now being reinterpreted by netizens with a different point of view. Some attributed it to Jungkook's change in attitude in recent appearances. Others pointed to the emotional distance between the two friends who have long been known to have a strong bond. In a matter of hours, that piece of story turned into a huge narrative, as if something serious was going on between Jungkook and Taehyung. Netizens began to speculate. Some called Jungkook too busy with his own world. Others associate Taehyung with a solitude that seems vague in some public moments. This new fact, while not necessarily intact and often cut from its original context, is the perfect fuel for wild opinion. This is where the pressure feels real. Jungkook, who has been known to prefer silence and work in silence, is suddenly at a point where silence is potentially misinterpreted, but what happened was unexpected. Instead of letting the speculation grow unchecked, Jungkook immediately took a personal step that is rarely exposed to the public. On one occasion captured on camera, Jungkook was seen approaching Taehyung with a very natural gesture. Not to show off, nor to silence criticism, but a spontaneous act that can only be born of genuine emotional closeness. The gaze, the small smile, and the body language that is difficult to fake seem to be indirect answers to all the accusations circulating. The moment quickly spread. Netizens who had previously debated a lot suddenly fell silent. Many admitted that they only realized that what they had been talking about was just a small piece of the long relationship of two humans who grew up together under the pressure of the entertainment industry. The new facts that initially sparked suspicion are reversed, revealing a side of Jungkook that has been rarely talked about. His protective reflexes towards the people he cares about. Sources close to Jungkook say he is not the type to express his feelings in words. When the situation heats up, he prefers to act. In Taehyung's context, the act was not merely a symbol of friendship, but a form of emotional responsibility. Jungkook is aware that whatever happens in a public space will always have an impact on the people around him, especially those who have walked with him since his trainee days. Taehyung himself seemed to respond in the same calm manner. No dramatic statements, no innuendo, just togetherness that comes back looking intact. This actually reinforces the impression that the new facts that netizens are talking about are just small ripples on the surface, while behind the scenes, the foundation of their relationship is much more solid than many people imagine. The army's reaction was slowly changing. From being initially divided by assumptions, many have now begun to re-reflect on the way they consume information. Not a few admit that they are too quick to draw conclusions, forgetting that Jungkook and Taehyung are not fictional characters, but real human beings with complex emotional dynamics. That new fact, instead of being destructive, opened the eyes of many to how public pressure can twist reality. This phenomenon also highlights Jungkook's position as a public figure who continues to be under extreme scrutiny. His every move is analyzed, his every silence questioned. But through his swift move toward Taehyung, Jungkook seems to be sending a subtle message that not everything needs to be answered with a press conference. There are times when emotional honesty is much stronger when conveyed through concrete actions that, on the other hand, Jungkook and Taehyung's relationship is again seen as an example of friendship that survives the storm of the industry. They are not without distinction, nor without distance, but that is precisely where their maturity is seen. The new facts that emerged became a small test that showed how the two chose to embrace each other, not move away from each other. Now the conversation is starting to shift. It's no longer about who's wrong or right, but rather about how the public should give their idols room to breathe. Jungkook, in his own way, has shown that when something concerns a person he cares about, he will not remain silent. His move toward Taehyung is not just a response to an issue, but a reflection of a value he has held for a long time. In the end, this story leaves one important lesson. New facts can appear at any time, framed by different points of view. But what really determines the meaning behind it is how the main actors respond. In the case of Jungkook and Taehyung, the response came in its simplest and most honest form. An act that confirmed that behind the spotlight and rumors, their bond still stood intact, far from the doubts that public opinion had time to build. The continuation of this story actually takes the public to a deeper layer, a layer that has been rarely touched by fast news and sensational titles. After the moment Jungkook approached Taehyung was widely spread, further facts emerged that made many people realize that the relationship between the two could not be read from just one piece of events. Some of the old footage was brought back, not to spark new controversy, but rather to show a pattern that has been consistent. Whenever Taehyung is in a difficult situation or misunderstood, Jungkook is always present in his own way. This new fact comes from people who have worked closely with BTS. They mentioned that Jungkook is often the one who is most sensitive to Taehyung's mood swings. When Taehyung chooses silence, Jungkook doesn't usually push through with questions. He actually approached, making sure his presence was felt without having to be announced. This attitude is now visible again, and the public has just realized that what they are witnessing is not a spontaneous reaction, but a habit that has been built over the years. Interestingly, after these facts appeared, the atmosphere among netizens began to change dramatically. If earlier the discussion was filled with assumptions and suspicions, now many are actually touched. Some fans claim to see themselves in Jungkook and Taehyung's dynamic, about how true friendship is often not noisy, not dramatic, but survives through consistent little things. Jungkook doesn't need to announce that he cares, because his actions already speak that. On the other hand, Taehyung also shows a response that reinforces this narrative. In the next few appearances, his expression was noticeably lighter. A smile that once felt restrained now appears freer. Many interpret this as evidence that emotional support that comes at the right time does have a big impact, even though it is never officially announced. This new fact changes the public's point of view, from mere gossip to a reflection on empathy and presence. The Korean entertainment industry itself is known to be harsh and stressful, especially for those who grew up together from a very young age like Jungkook and Taehyung. The fact that the two are still able to maintain a bond amid hectic schedules, global demands, and often ruthless public opinion becomes a much stronger story than any rumors. Jungkook, who is often positioned as a quiet and introverted figure, actually shows that his care is real and consistent, although not always visible on the surface. Many soldiers are now beginning to question their role as spectators. This new fact seemed to slap at the collective consciousness that too often, the emotions of idols are treated as public consumption.